Alright, the Bucks. It is Talking Buccaneers with me, Fumane, and I want to do something exciting. I want to start a series, 5 parts, maybe 6 parts, looking at where Orlando Pirates in its current squad can improve. So what I'll do on this particular episode, which is the first one, I'll be looking at sort of an overview, looking at the squad of Orlando Pirates, where we can improve, which areas particularly, using the 4-2-3-1 formation that we play, that the whole head coach plays. Maybe even thinking about if we want to be versatile with our formation, what kind of signings we need to make that can give us a different option, a different dimension. I'm thinking about the Mamelodi Sundowns game. I'll get into the video just now. I'm thinking about the Mamelodi Sundowns game because, of course, I'm thinking about it still. But I'm thinking about how in the second half when we're trailing, but even when we'd gotten our first goal to make the score 1-1, we changed from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 formation where we had one holding midfielder instead of two, which we typically see the head coach uses, where we'll have 2 holding midfielders, 1 offensive midfielder. But in the second half, as we're chasing the game, as we're trying to win the game, the coach changed into what I think we can consider a lot more going forward, especially in the so-called lesser games in the league and in the cups, where we'll play with 1 holding midfielder and 2 offensive midfielders. So I'll be keeping that in mind as I'm thinking about some of these signings or some of these areas, in fact, in this particular video. In future videos, I'll be looking at particular positions where I'll be, looking at the players that we have in that position based on this video and maybe even future information, because the transfer window is still open right now. So there's definitely going to be more transfer business that's still going to happen. In fact, am I right? I think the transfer window is open. I know contracts go until the 30th of June, so we might still see maybe some contracts coming to an end. But I think the transfer window is open now. And yeah, I'll be looking at, as we kind of go forward, in particular positions where what kind of player, just players around the league, that kind of thing that we can bring to Orlando Pirates to strengthen based on the overview that I will have done today. So let me get into it. So the first area that I wanna look at, and I think it's mainly based on what I saw last season, the way that we're playing, is the right fullback position / right centre back position. So obviously the cat is a bit out of the bag in that Orlando Pirates have had information. I don't know who leaked it, but there's information out there that Pirates are very close to securing the signing of Keegan Johannes from SuperSport United. Now, Keegan Johannes stylistically is a player who can play at right back and right centre back. He's played at right centre back, especially earlier in his SuperSport United career. He'd fill in the centre back position, but he's someone who then can also play as a right back. And I think that is telling. If Orlando Pirates is linked with that sort of player, it is telling, and it makes sense to me anyway, for this reason. When we play with our 4-2-3-1 formation, now a lot of the time, one of our fullbacks will be really offensive. If you think about our game against the last game when we played SuperSport United, we're playing a flat back 4 where we had Munyani playing as a right back and Hoto playing as a left back. However, Hoto would be the one that would, provide the width on the left. He'd go forward. Munyani would then be tasked to sit a lot back and sort of give us that cover at the back. And that's very typical with Orlando Pirates in that when we're playing with an offensive left back, the right back typically, will be the one that doesn't go forward that much. When we're playing with, a very offensive right back where Munyani will go all the way up and give us that width, or Thabiso Libito will usually play with Maela to be the one that gives us that 3 at the back cover, so that we are not very vulnerable when it comes to stuff like counter-attacks. I beg your pardon, counter-attacks and that sort of thing. So it makes sense because I think on the left, like I've already mentioned, we've got Munyani Innocent Maela, the captain, who forms that 3 very nicely, in that he's not so much of an offensive fullback anymore. In the latter stages of his career, I think he's more defensively nous, even though I think we can do a lot better in that position with Innocent Maela. But he's more defensively nous than he is going forward. So he, I think, likes to be part of that back 3 when Munyani or Libito goes forward on the right. But what we've lacked is that when we're playing with an offensive fullback in Dion Hotto, Munyani, who wants to go forward, tends to be the one that is now tasked to stay back. And I think for that reason, Orlando Pirates, just to have that kind of versatility at the back, have looked at who can we get, who can sort of play as a centre-back, who can go to the right, or as a right-back who'll just stay and be a traditional full-back, covering his defense. And for that reason, I think, we've been linked with Keegan Johannes. Now, it's not concrete that we're going to sign that player, but I think, yes, Orlando Pirates, if they're interested in that player, that is an area I think we should be interested to sign a player. I think we should be signing someone. I think for me, I thought we're rather going to go with a centre back who can sort of shift to the right, and a couple of players around the league that I'll talk about in future episodes if we haven't signed Keegan Johannes yet, who can play in that position. And so that's the first area, a right centre back or a wide centre back who can sort of go to the right and cover at right back to form a 3 when we're playing with an offensive fullback. The second area is I think it's going to be very arguable, this one, but I think we could do with a left back as well. I think what we can do, exactly what we'll be doing on the right, I think we should try to do on the left in getting an improvement of Innocent Maela in terms of quality. Now, obviously, Innocent Maela, fantastic captain, speaks very well in the media, that kind of thing. I think he's one of those that does very well in representing the club in the media, certainly. And, his behavior as someone who's never in the media for this reason or that, except, sort of pushing this positive image, putting this positive light of the club in the media. That's all you see of Innocent Maela. But I think on the pitch, it is worth saying that, at a big club like Orlando Pirates, your quality or lack thereof is going to be very much looked at if it's starting to lack. And unfortunately for these players that are somewhat darlings of the football club, sometimes they tend to be victims of being wonderful characters at the club, but then being somewhat of a bit of a coming short when it comes to quality on the pitch. And I think Innocent Maela, with a bit of age, I think has decreased in terms of quality. I think when he's playing out there on the left, I mean, he's not a terrible player. Definitely still is a PSL player in terms of quality. But I think at Orlando Pirates, where you are looking at your fullback sometimes, I mean, when he's playing in that position, he's sometimes, in fact, tasked to get in. And when Rile especially is the one who's giving us the width on the left, when we're playing with Maela and Rile on the left, Rile is the one who'll be very wide on the left to kind of give us that width and get those take-ons, which then means for Maela that sometimes he has to step into midfield. And I think in those situations when he kind of has to join that fluidity of movement of Maswanganye and Mufukeng on the left, and you're hoping for a bit of quality that you see in Marco when he's playing over there. I think that's where Maela comes short. So what I propose is that maybe we can get someone who's a left-footed centre-back. I know there's a couple of those that are actually floating about in the league, but that's another area that I think we can get another player there. Maybe release one left back. I mean, we've got Marco, Hotto, and Maela. I think it's a crazy shout to ask for Marco to be released. I think he's still one of the best players in the club. And I'm willing to come out swinging and say that. I think it's a hard ask for Orlando Pirates to release its captain, although we've seen them do that before. We've seen Pirates do that with, Happy Jele, Thulan Hlajwayo, and Ntsikelelo Nyauza, all out same transfer window. And so it's not unlike Pirates to release a captain. I think if they think that we've got enough leaders in the squad, people like Tim, people like Nda is emerging as one of the leaders at Orlando Pirates recently. Tabelo Koki is another one, and I'm sure there's a few others, people like Sesani. You can see that he's got that in him to be that leader at Orlando Pirates and grow steadily into that role. And other players, I mean, Patrick Maswanganyi is another one who maybe, I know there's a footage that came out of him when we were playing the Soweto Derby against Kaizer Chiefs where he seems like he's a very outspoken person. He's someone who he kind of drags everyone in that dressing room. He gives those speeches. As we've seen in that famous footage of him in the Soweto Derby. But I think even leading by example, Patrick Maswanganyi is somewhat of a captain, you must think, at Orlando Pirates right now. And so there's no shortage of leaders. That's the point that I'm making. If we do improve, that position at left centre back. So I'll be looking out for left centre back, left back that can do that Mayela role, that sort of left centre back, covering at centre back every now and again. But definitely, I think a left-footed defender is something that we do need, especially to keep the shape and those diagonals. It's great when you've got a left footer who can almost hit it same time to the opposite winger, if that is a solution that we need in a particular game. And I think it's one that we can still possess when, as part of our arsenal in trying to dismantle teams that will set up one way or another. I think having that option of a left-footed centre-back who can, be direct and find someone like Saleng over there would help a lot. The next position, I think it's no secret, central midfield at Orlando Pirates is, a position that Pirates should be always looking to improve. I think every season, Pirates sort of last 4 or 5 seasons, we've just had this turnover of midfielders non-stop because it's just one of those positions where the bar is too high. That engine of the team, you've got to have it spot on. You've got to have, I would say, your best player playing in that position. And so I think at the moment we don't have our best player playing in, certainly those 2 number 6 positions, those 2 sort of holding midfielders rather. Those 2 holding midfielders, I think we're still looking for those ones. It looks like we found one in Talent Mbata, certainly thinking long term. I think we found one in Talent Mbata based on his performances. Now, something I said, and this is not about Talent Mbata, I'll soon get on to sort of reasons why I think we need to strengthen there. But something I said about Talent Mbata is that I hope that now that, Orlando Pirates have it sounds like have offered him a permanent deal, he doesn't stop to audition, to play like he's still auditioning to be the number 6 at Orlando Pirates. I hope that we get even more of Talent Mbata with a bit more security and a surety that he's here to stay. I hope it's not one of those, now that he's signed, he's got his deal, he's got his 3 years, I will presume, and then it sort of, fades out and we sort of get, that mediocrity that we sometimes see from players that come to Orlando Pirates after impressing, whether at the club or elsewhere. Now, I think the reason that we need a midfielder is for the reason that, well, firstly, we've released, Thabang Munari, who was a huge part of the squad. Now, someone might say that Thabang Munari, when he was playing, those minutes that he was playing have been overtaken by Makehleni Makaula. Certainly, even in terms of, if you think about the juxtaposition, or maybe not even juxtaposition, but sort of how the two central midfielders at Orlando Pirates will contrast each other. I think what we've always tended to go for is we'll have one sort of deep-lying playmaker, and then we'll have one maybe a box-to-box. Or yeah, I think actually most of the time we'll have one who's more box-to-box, and then we'll have one who's a deep-lying playmaker, but maybe even given the role to be a ball winner in that midfield. And I mean, someone who seems like has got his place nailed on at Orlando Pirates more than anyone at the moment, especially in central midfielder, I think is Miguel Tim. This is not to say he's the certified starter in every single game. It is to say that I think if Pirates were to release every single midfielder right now and be left with one, I think they'd release everyone and be left with Tim. Though I can say that Talent Mbata is a bit arguable now in that position, that maybe he's the most important one at the moment. But I think with Tim, you are looking at, you know, a deep-lying playmaker. I think when Tim is playing there, he plays a lot of the time as the playmaker, and then someone else will then be given a different role. And, you know, that's why Tim, I think, works with Mbata. I know there's a lot of stuff out there about Tim and Tim and Makaula don't work together as a two, but I think they do. I think especially because you know, if Makaula is that ball winner, then Tim becomes that playmaker. Now, someone might say then it takes away from that box-to-box thing, which is a fair shout. And I think it's good actually to have at your club that versatility in terms of what your midfielders can do differently. Now, obviously, we've seen Makaula has come out in the media at Robert Marawa's show, and he said that Orlando Pirates have given him that famous Tabang Munari 1-year extension. So he'll be here till at least June of 2025, Maketlen Makaula. But I am pretty sure he's going to be playing less. But obviously, then we've got that, one would say, that ball winner in our midfield, keeping it simple with the short passes. I don't think Makaula is given a playmaking role when he's playing there. I think his thing is to cover his other central midfielder, to do the ball winning, the water carrying for his partner in there, but also just, you know, keep the ball ticking, pass it into, you know, his man who's going to create a move for us. I don't think he's tasked with thinking about how we can attack. I think he's the one that will just have us keep that possession in midfield, have us maybe even go side to side when necessary. So we've got that in Makaula. But I do think that, you know, we've got to have a younger version of him, certainly because of legs. Now, he came out and said that, you know, a lot of people are doubting his energy and that sort of thing. But I think we are rightfully doubting that at the age of sort of 34, 35, we've got to think about having, you know, someone who can run. You know, fascinating to hear Talent Mbata speak a bit earlier this June, I think maybe end of May, saying that when he's playing with Makaula, he's the one that will usually run more because he's the younger one with the legs. And that's the reason why I think you've got to have a younger version of Makaula, in that if you have Talent Mbata next to him, you want Talent Mbata to be thinking about what Talent Mbata does and not thinking about covering Makaula as well. You want Makaula doing what Makaula does and Mbata doing what Mbata does, not Mbata doing a bit of a 1x2 shift because Makaula maybe doesn't have sort of the legs anymore. So I think if they think Makaula is worth having in the squad for his experience, his age, maybe his uniqueness in terms of the midfielders that we have, that's good. But I think a younger version of him would be great, and I think that's where I will then put Mosele as a sort of cover for Makaula. I think the reason we have Mosele in the squad for me would be just as a cover for Makaula, and you know, because there's a lot of doubt, I think, for me still about Mosele, whether or not that loan spell at Chippa United has taken him a notch up. Maybe he's a year older now. Is he more matured? That sort of thing. Maybe, but I think it's a huge risk to then thrust him in there and go, you are expected to perform at this level. I think it's a huge ask for someone like Mosele, who's been at the club for, I think this is going to be the 4th year. I think we signed him in 2020 when we're still playing with this jersey, by the way, if I'm not mistaken. But Yeah, so I see. So now the signing that I think we need to make, and I mean, there's at the time of recording, there's information that again has come out, SABC, all sorts of media talking about that. You know, Orlando Pirates have signed Silaelo from SuperSport United. Now he comes in obviously as I think as a free signing. His contract has run out at SuperSport United, and yeah, it's a free deal. We've seen Orlando Pirates do this sort of thing for a long time now. And something I want to say, and this is not to take away from his quality, but yes, you can do those free signings, you know, when a player has reached the end of his contract, and you can sort of bargain like that and get that player. But I think that's no replacement for actually going to the market and getting that marquee signing that takes the club a level higher. I think this is not the summer, this is not the winter, I beg your pardon. I think where Orlando Pirates is at the moment, this is not the winter where we just, you know, get squad depth. I don't think it's that winter for Orlando Pirates. I think this is the winter where Orlando Pirates gets 2 or 3 players that take the team a notch, just that bit higher than where we were last season. I know a lot of people are talking about the problem has been depth at Orlando Pirates. You know, if you're playing CAF and all of that, you need depth and stuff. I don't think Orlando Pirates has a problem of depth. I think Orlando Pirates has a problem of quality in depth. I think the problem at Orlando Pirates is that if Patrick Maswanganyi is not playing, can you trust that Kabelo Dlamini is going to give you, in its uniqueness, but the same level of quality in that position? Or Karim Kimvidi, can he do that? Lesedi Kapenga, can he do that? You know, I think that has been the issue, especially at central midfielder. And I'm sorry to be going on so much about central midfielder, but I think that's where the heart of, you know, where we need to make a marquee signing is for Orlando Pirates. And so I think that's the problem. So, you know, in that midfield, I still think we still need to make a marquee signing. I think preferably for me, because now that we've got, you know, a sort of offensive midfielder, someone who's played at right back at SuperSport United, a graduate, obviously, of their Diski team, I think he's someone Pirates will have been looking at for a long time, because he comes from, you know, that school of excellence, came into SuperSport United, got injured, you know, horrible ACL injury in 2022 that kept him out for months, which I think obviously stunts the development of a young player. But yeah, hasn't played a lot of games for SuperSport United. I think also because of the kind of coaches that SuperSport United has. Stylistically, I think maybe that's where you know, you can't play him in that central midfielder, because Marhaman and especially Ndlovu, I beg your pardon, play a certain way, and he's more of like a, you know, a playmaker sort of player. So he's then had to play on the right side of midfield for them. And I mean, in different seasons, he's had Tebogo Mokoena ahead of him, Sipho Mbule. So that's just been his unfortunate part. So he comes into Orlando Pirates as, I think for me, a potential player, a high potential player that Pirates thinks, you know, there's a talent that maybe we've watched since his days at the School of Excellence. But I still think that Pirates still need to make a signing of a playmaker who comes in at or around the age of Talent Mbat, 24, 25, 23, that sort of age. Because I think Tim is that one playmaker who's already there. Ndlondlo is one who's already there as well, but a lot of doubts over whether he can still improve, obviously because of his age, turning 29 very soon, but also having not commanded that position now after 2 years, 2 preseasons with the coach. Am I mistaken? Maybe 1 preseason, because I think he came in very late in the transfer window when he signed for Orlando Pirates. But having failed now to sort of solidify himself as that heart of you know, that playmaking player for Orlando Pirates, where Tim has then had to do that at times. I think Pirates then has to go again in the market for me and go, who's the next one. And I've got a couple of names for that position. The next position that I think, Pirates needs to sign is a winger. The reason that I think, despite, the rumors that, Relebogile Mofokeng might be heading to Europe this winter, if not maybe the next one. I think whether he lives or doesn't leave, I think Orlando Pirates still needs a winger. The reason that I say this is that the only player that, especially off that level that you have at the club, is Munapule Saleng, because someone who was expected to come in and do that role for us is Katlego Tladisa, but he's not, you don't need me to say it, I think he hasn't performed to the standard that you need at Orlando Pirates. I think he's someone who's obviously got that speed, he's got a bit of dribbling on him, but I don't think he's someone who helps us in breaking the lines of the opposition. I don't think he's someone who helps us in those one-on-one situations. I think his flashes of dribbling and speed have not been of utility as of yet, and you don't need me to make that opinion. You see it in the coach not having fully trusted him at times. We've seen that Karim Kimvidi, Kabelo Dlamini, Patrick Maswanganyi, even they play ahead of him in that right wing position when Saleng is not playing. And I think you've then got to wonder if Otladisa is off the level that Orlando Pirates require. He's had a full preseason with the head coach last season, so it's not even a case that he's still got to acclimatize, maybe in terms of quality, but he's someone who's played in the PSL for a while. He knows the level. But I think, you've just got to realize that some players come to Orlando Pirates and maybe the level is just a bit too high for them. And I don't want to say that yet about Otladisa. What I want to say is I want my team to have a good winger who is ready to come in and, make a difference. We need someone who can play there at left wing when Mofokeng is not playing, because I don't think Hoto should play that position again. I think Hoto is, he's been of utility to us for a very long time. However, I think he lacks a bit of that quality out wide on the left when Mofokeng is not playing there. I think something that's now stark in terms of quality is when Mofokeng is not playing and then Hoto plays there. It's something that starts to be a bit embarrassing in terms of the quality of Mofokeng and what he does when he's playing there in terms of taking on players and, the fluidity between people like Maswanganyi and him and that sort of thing, where Hoto, when he's playing on the left, he's always out wide. He doesn't give you very much in terms of coming in field and allowing someone to go out wide. Also, just his end product playing there, I think, can be better. So I think for that reason, Pirates should be looking at a winger who can do left and right wing, by the way, because I think even on the right, on the right, the argument is that when Saleng is not playing, then, you have Libito being the one who is that wide player for Orlando Pirates. And hence, you've got Dlamini then playing in there because he can then come in field to give Libito the width and create, that wide sort of structure for Pirates to stretch the opposition, and then have Dlamini and Maswanganyi be able to penetrate in the channels. So obviously when Saleng is not playing, Pirates does use the wide fullback to be the one that does that for us. Someone like Libito, obviously, who was a winger coming to Orlando Pirates, is obviously being used as a fullback. But I do think that a winger, just a pure winger would be of utility. Someone who by trade is someone who his thing is to actually attack. I think it would be good. Why not get someone who by trade just does that? He's just a winger and that's his position. I think that would be a great utility signing for Orlando Pirates. Someone also of the level or the potential to go on and be a very good player in the PSL for us. The next position, and you guys, by the way, you can comment and you can say where you think I'm mistaken. You can leave, positions that you think we need strengthening in. But the last position that I think we would do with definitely strengthening at Orlando Pirates is the center forward. Obviously, Kevin Erasmus has left. Swaibu Maru, who didn't play so much, has also left. There's talk around Zakele Lepasa being the next one who might go. And I think part of the reason for those rumors is you know how Lepasa is like when he's not playing. I think he's someone who backs his own ability and will look to move on and go and play somewhere. So I think for that reason, obviously Orlando Pirates will bring back Boitumelo Radiopane from loan at Cape Town Spurs, but I think we'll still be short in numbers. I think Pirates obviously does want to have 4 or 5 forwards, people that can play as the center forward. And for that reason, I think we should get not a high-profile striker. I think what we've got in Tshegofatso Mabasa at the moment is great as our main man. I think then we need to go for a potential kind of striker, someone who can come in, who's also happy to come in and do maximum 15 games for us. Because if you think about who has left, that's Kemet Erasmus and Swaibu Maru. How many games did they play? Obviously, Tshegofatso Mabasa is going to be leading that line. The coach loves the look of Makgopa in terms of what he gives him. So the striker that comes in is not someone who comes in to play 30 games for us. And that's going to be someone who's going to be happy with that role. And so I think it's got to be a potential player, obviously. Whether that is Boitumelo Radiopane in the thoughts of Orlando Pirates, I'm not sure, especially with his fitness concerns and injuries and those sort of things. But yeah, I just think it's someone who either is at the very end of his career, who can still give us something, or at the start of it, because those are the players who are typically willing to get maximum 15 games. Whereas if you're going for a 25-year-old, 24-year-old, just for example, Cupido at Cape Town Spurs, I think he'll be backing himself to go somewhere where he's going to be the main man. I think that's not the signing that Pirates will go for or should go for. Or maybe they can. If Cupido is happy to come in and do 15 games at Orlando Pirates, maybe a few sort of irrelevant African games. And I don't think they're irrelevant, of course. I just mean that, you come against these lesser oppositions in Africa where, you'll have the coach maybe rest someone because we're trying to get those points in the league, especially at the start. We want to get those first 10 games checked off. And so while you're still in the sort of preliminary rounds and you getting teams like Jwaneng, even though they knocked us out, then you have people like Cupido who can come in and be the main man and score the goals. Where Maru, when he was given that opportunity, I think he scored one time, but he's not really grasped it and been that player for us. Anyway, that's the first part of the series. That's the overview. It is a bit long because I've sort of had to cover everything and sort of put the skeleton of this series going forward. But yeah, what do you think? What names do you already have for different positions? What position do you think we still need to, strengthen going forward? But let me leave it here before I sit here for too long. Until the next time, up the mighty Bucks. Cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video from Talking Buccaneers. If you did, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all our future content.